Hi, I'm Lena Henicle.
And I'm Nick DeSantis.
And this is Lantern TV's Arts and Life Report. Report is a show where we give our recommendations from everything from books to movies to food to sweet treats around Columbus. And today, we'll be going over some books that we are currently reading or have read that we would like to recommend to you guys.
But before we do that, we're going to take you down to locally owned Columbus-based Prologue bookshop to see some of their recommendations for readers.
So Dan started Prologue in 2018 here in the Short North. We've tried really hard to have a focused and curated selection on local literature, but also global literature, a lot of works in translation, a lot of diverse reading selections from authors to subjects, and we try really hard to promote things that we care about as a shop and as booksellers and get that to the hands of the readers. OSU students should come to Prologue because, well, we're the closest bookstore, independent bookstore to campus, but like I said, we also try to have a diverse selection of titles for people to choose from. We don't just have, the newest romantasy read that everyone wants. I mean, we do have that, but we also have different titles that challenge readers to expand their taste and expand their reading palette. So the first recommendation we have is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. This is freshly out in paperback. It's a meditation on how we spend our lives searching for meaning through art, through human connection, and it follows a newly orphaned and freshly sober man named Cyrus, and he's the son of Iranian immigrants, so it kind of explores those themes as well, and it's written by a poet, so it's like some of the best prose you'll ever read. It's been a really hot title this season, and everyone who's read it has loved it, so you should read it too. So our next recommendation is Us Fools by Nora Lang. This is published by a local independent press, $2 Radio. This is about two sisters coming of age in the Midwest during the farming crisis of the 1980s. It's about the sisters coping and questioning with the American dream. It's kind of like a middle finger to capitalism and tired tropes of the Midwest, so I feel like especially as OSU students and people of the culture of the Midwest, this is something that a lot of us should read and would really enjoy. Moving into a couple nonfiction recommendations, we have The Serviceberry, which is by the indigenous scientist and author of Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer. This is a short read, but it offers a lot of lessons and insight on how to live in harmony with nature and how the natural world embodies gratitude and interconnectedness. It's all lessons that are very important always, but especially today.
Lena, tell us what your first recommendation is.
My first recommendation is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This book is a fantasy sci-fi novel. It's actually a series, and it is about a young Gideon who lives in space, and she goes and protects her planet's princess in this game. It's not a game, it's actually a competition to win immortality. Yes, the way I would describe it is like the TV show The Traitors in space. It's definitely very interesting, a lot of murder and hijinks, definitely one of the most interesting and compelling science fiction books I have ever read. Would you like to do your recommendation next?
Yes, I would. My first recommendation is the absolute fantasy classic, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. This series has become the standard. I think most people would agree on what a great fantasy story should be. It follows Frodo Baggins, a hobbit of the Shire, on his journey to destroy a magical ring created by this evil Dark Lord. And on his quest, he goes on a billion different adventures and he's aided by his friends, who aren't all just hobbits. He's aided by men, he's aided by elves, he's aided by dwarves, he's friends with a wizard named Gandalf who's really awesome and makes really cool spells and stuff like that. Even though it's such a magical world, the lessons of the story and the themes of friendship and love and loyalty and trust are super relatable, and it's totally timeless. And in addition, it's the perfect book to get cozy on the couch with a little cocoa by a fireplace and read. It is a certified winter classic, as Lena and I would agree.
I would definitely agree.
Yeah. So what's your next recommendation?
My next recommendation is a classic as well. It is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I read this book in high school, and to say it changed my life might sound dramatic, but it literally did. This book is early science fiction. I want to say Mary Shelley is probably one of the trailblazers of science fiction,
No doubt.
especially like science fiction novels. Frankenstein follows a doctor named Victor Frankenstein, and he is on the quest to find the key to immortality and also bringing back life. And he ends up bringing back a monster, and things slowly turn out very poorly in his favor. It's a great read. There's lots of snow. It literally, half of it takes place in the Swiss Alps, half of it takes place like going to like the North Pole. So definitely a winter read for sure, but I highly recommend it. Yeah. What's your next recommendation?
My next recommendation is switching away from the fantasy and sci-fi genres. I have a nonfiction book called Paul McCartney's The Lyrics by Paul McCartney himself. It is a music memoir, but not in the sense that it's just him telling his life story. It's him kind of telling his life story through alphabetically every song he's ever written. And you really get this really cool insight into not only how he wrote the songs, but where he was at that stage in his life, and in addition, the things that inspired him. So you get to experience all those really youthful, young, simplistic Beatles songs, and then you watch him grow up, and it's really interesting to see his evolution. So yeah, I totally recommend for any fan of Beatles, or really any fan of music in general, because Paul McCartney is one of the greatest songwriters of all time.
So my final recommendation is an adult contemporary novel. It's kind of a dark coming of age story. It's called Chlorine. It is about a young swimmer who I believe, and this maybe need to be fact checked, but I think she's training for the Olympics, and she desperately wants to be a mermaid. She loves that pool, hates humans. So this is kind of a very dark story of how she kind of finds herself, and also her quest into making herself into a mermaid.
I mean, just throwing in the mermaid thing was just not where I thought it was gonna go, training for the Olympics. So yeah, I might have to put that one on the list.
You definitely should. What's your last recommendation?
My last recommendation is a book that I first read because it was required reading in my 7th grade English class, and I have not gotten rid of it ever since. It is...
Wait, can I guess?
What?
Is it The Outsiders?
You guessed right. It is the classic The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. It tells the story of a group of outcasts in 1960s era Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yeah, the book is amazing. It's a great commentary on everything that was going on in America at the time and prevalent issues that still face the country today. In addition, almost every main character of the group of friends, the Outsiders, are super likable. Everyone has their completely unique personality, and it spawned a really awesome movie in the 80s. So yeah.
I was just about to bring up the movie in the 80s. I've never read the book, but I've seen that movie. I've seen Patrick Swayze. Well, that wraps up our show for today. We're so glad that you can tune in and hear our book recommendations.
We hope you go online or to a bookstore and check out any of these recommendations from us or from Prologue. I'm Nick DeSantis.
And I'm Lena Henicle.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.